Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. My parents always taught me to be kind to others, and the kindest thing you could do is to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Sky High Tiger 75. Entitled Mother tells me my 14-year-old sister was asking to be harassed, gets roundly embarrassed. So I'm 16, almost 17, and my sister's 14. We were raised by a single dad who's ex-military and firmly believes if someone starts a fight with you, then you should end it. I attend a pretty swanky boarding school in the UK, and there's plenty of entitled mothers and entitled kids running around, but are the sort of rich and don't realize they're a bit dense sort of people. Me and my sister are in separate boarding houses, but see each other most days. I love my sister, and often feel the need to stick up for her. In the boarding house next to mine, there's an entitled kid. He's 17 and a very unpleasant young lad. He's not particularly bright as a student, but he's in the first team for rugby and is generally quite athletic. He's been known to be a bully for a while now, but he also seems to have a darker side, and many girls have accused him of making creepy comments and openly threatening them. Around the start of October, our drama class began to do casting for High School Musical. Sister is absolutely obsessed with it for some reason, so me being the good brother and one of the favorite drama students, I literally take it as a scholarship. I managed to get her a role as a backup dancer, and she was really happy. Entitled Kid also decided he wanted a foray into drama and was also cast as a backup dancer. Since his acting and singing were questionable at best, this means he was working closely with Sister and the other dancers most of the time. No problem, right? Wrong. Sister tells me in the first 2 days that he was already getting creepy with her and some of the other girls. More concerningly, younger backup dancers. I talked with my girlfriend about it and decided the next day I'd have a polite word with him. I'm slightly autistic, so I sometimes need guidance on how to handle things like this. Next day, when I went into the drama room, I clearly heard him say something which I will not repeat here to Sister and another girl. I walked up to him, already not in a fantastic mood, and said something along the lines of, "Don't you dare say that to my sister, or any of the girls here, you understand?" This witch replies, "Seriously, or what?" This next part I clearly didn't think through properly, but I said, "Well, I could either knock your lights out, or you get kicked out of the play and the rugby team with what I've heard you say." Now, I'm about 6 foot, 135 pounds, and am by no means weak, but this guy is easily 6'3", 170 to 190 pounds. But nevertheless, he grunts some agreement out and buggers off. I thought nothing of it, and the play went off without a hitch. Cut to 3 weeks ago, and at 9 p.m. when our homework time ends, I decide to go out with my girlfriend to celebrate 8 months. And I'm so glad I did. We're walking behind the main school building when we heard someone clearly in distress. My girlfriend immediately went to find a teacher, and I ran over to see what was going on, since at first I thought someone had tripped or something. I find entitled kid had backed Sister into a corner and is threatening her and shouting obscenities, standing in a very predatory stance. She's lying on the floor with a noticeable bruise on her face and sort of shouting in anger and pain. I immediately sort of grabbed entitled kid and started throwing punches. My only goal was to get this monster away from Sister. Now, despite him having size and most definitely strength on me, I quickly realized every time he hit me, it didn't hurt so bad. But when I hit him, he felt it more than I did. I attribute this to the fact that I've gotten beaten up my whole life, mainly because people assume the autistic kid won't fight back, while this prancy little princess probably isn't used to being hit. Eventually, I got him in a headlock, which I did maybe hold for a bit too long, and when I let go, he didn't fight back, so I just got up and started kicking him. I'm not one of excessive violence, but something about this predator attacking my tiny, relatively defenseless sister had me seeing red. Of course, in a case of very bad timing, girlfriend and teacher show up just as entitled kid starts to get the crap kicked out of him. Teacher naturally separates us and gets us both sent to headmaster's office the following morning. Fairly enough, seeing that entitled kid is badly beaten and that teacher saw me kicking him, headmaster thought I was the aggressor. Which also makes relative sense, since entitled kid's disciplinary record is for the most part clean, and mine has a few fights on it. Entitled mother, the queen witch with the Karen haircut, fake nails, and very fake tan skin, arrives and promptly starts to go absolutely bat poop on me for assaulting her baby boy. I once again did myself zero favors by bellowing back just as loud about what a piece of crap her child is, all in front of the headmaster. I couldn't care less either. As far as I'm concerned, entitled kid was about to sexually assault sister, and this witch was defending him. At this point, I was beginning to think that I could be in big poop. Fights aren't something my school appreciates, and I could maybe even face expulsion. That is, until my girlfriend and sister show up. Having asked headmaster to hear their side of the story and claiming to have proof, it turns out sister, as clever as she is, had started recording on her phone while it was in her pocket. When entitled kid approached her, freaking genius she is. The video lasted 7 minutes roughly and was full of entitled kid threatening to sexually assault her, saying how she would fight back, etc., and ending after teacher showed up. At this point, headmaster decides that our parents will meet with him about entitled kid's behavior and mine. My dad told me that entitled mother basically called me a menace to society, along with saying I should be kept away from the normal kids. Okay, witch, I'm autistic, not psychotic. My dad was furious and said, at least I didn't raise a child predator. Amid their bickering, headmaster showed them the video, or better, a black screen with some audio. Entitled mother then tried justifying entitled kid's words by saying, well, the witch was asking for it talking to entitled kid like that. I'm surprised my father didn't cave her skull in for that remark. In the end, entitled kid had been expelled, after some other girls also told headmaster some of the unsavory things entitled kid has said and done to them. His mother's also been permanently removed from school grounds. She was a careers advisor apparently. My dad's proud of me, and my sister got pizza and will get a new computer for her bravery. She responded to all his creepy comments very insultingly. Brave of her. I should also mention entitled kid's dad is a charming fellow, also ex-military, and was shocked to his core by both his son's actions and his wife's response to the video. He's profusely apologized both to me and my sister, and has also said to my dad how remorseful he is that he didn't raise his son right. I thought it was fair to add this just in case anyone thought he was like entitled mother. Just thought I'd share what was a very mad experience. Even if the person was bigger and more frightening than you, if somebody was threatening your sibling or maybe a close friend like this, would you hesitate to jump in and get physical with this assaulter? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Tulip Flores. My entitled aunt and her evil kids killed our snake. Okay, so this happened a couple of years ago. To give some context, my aunt, entitled aunt, and her hex spawn kids, entitled kid 1, 2, and 3, came to visit us for a couple of weeks. Now, I've always hated them ever since I was a kid. Her hex spawns would destroy my things, push me, and when I started to develop more, entitled kid 1, he was 12 when I was 13, even tried to grab my chest. I would obviously get upset, but anytime I got mad, entitled aunt would threaten to hit me, so I'm always weary of them. A year before the story, my sister got a snake for her birthday. She was a beautiful diamond jungle python we named Aria. We all loved her. She was completely healthy and happy the entire time we had her. Until our entitled aunt and her bandwagon of runts crawled out of heck and into our spare room. My sister knew they were coming, so she locked the door and put up a sign that specifically states that no one can go in her room. Entitled aunt had seen the pictures of Aria up on Facebook, and after her brats got bored of torturing me, they moved their sights to my sister and her snake. Entitled aunt started nagging that my sister should let her precious kids play with Aria. My sister said no every time they asked, and this made entitled aunt mad. So she started getting a butter knife to unlock my sister's door. Our locks aren't secure and a knife can unlock them, and let her kids play with the snake. She would do this every time me, my sister, and my mom weren't around, and my dad let her. Heck, he even helped. Throughout their stay, we noticed Aria acting weird. We'd find little injuries on her that we couldn't explain. We thought rats might have gotten into her cage, but we couldn't find anything. We questioned entitled aunt, but of course she denied everything. We were suspicious and stopped leaving them alone in the house, with either me or my sister making sure they left sister's room alone. We parked until the last day of their visit when entitled aunt told us that her kids needed to say goodbye to the snake since they had so much fun playing with it. We were horrified, but our dad just shrugged and said that they were our guests. Nearly a couple of days since the visit from heck passed and Aria's condition was being worse, we took her to the vet and found out she had an infection. The entitled kids are very unhygienic, and we had no doubt that this was their fault. We were always sure to keep the cage clean and to wash our hands. and not long after, Aria passed away due to her infection. We were gutted, and of course, Entitled Aunt was so offended that we even suspected her angels of such a thing. So we cried and gave our girl a funeral. No amazing end, but still thought I'd share. They might be your dad and all, but they kind of deserve some kind of grief for this. If this is something where they just don't understand how important it is to you and your sister, I think you should be reminding them often of it and making it clear that this was some kind of gross lack of respect that their own father had for their kids and their pets. All I know is if I was in an OP situation, I would be equally devastated, and I would definitely have a grudge against Entitled Aunt too. And our final story of the day is by Ronany. Entitled Parent protects and encourages her son's sexual harassment tendencies. This isn't a classic Entitled Parent story, but the actions of an overprotective parent had some effect on the situation, so I decided to post the story here. I wasn't involved or know someone directly involved with the story. All of the details I'm telling right here is what I've gathered from his friends, word of mouth, or news articles. Back in elementary school, I had a friend I would always play with on every school break. We were classmates, and we were in the same group of friends up to middle school, where we parted ways. He was always loved and protected by his mother and grandma, who were very involved with his life. His mom and dad were separated, and from what I understood, his dad wasn't around much. Fast forward and I'm in high school. My current group of friends were from another school, and as I happened to find out, he studied with them in their music class. He was a very talented pianist. From what they tell me, he had a severe gambling and alcohol addiction. He would get involved with loan sharks, loaning thousands of dollars, mind you he was still under 18, to gamble on poker sites and such. His mom worked in various low-paying jobs, and by that time, his grandma barely functioned by herself. His dad wasn't around. He wasn't a good-looking guy at all, so I guess the alcohol and the gambling was some sort of a coping mechanism. Anyways, my friends told me about a scandal involving my childhood friend at school. Apparently, he would invite girls from his music class to his home so that they could record her a song, or he could help them improve their singing. Every time he invited someone, he would try to kiss them, maybe even worse, I'm not sure, but this happened to multiple girls. Eventually, the girls decided to complain to the school administration. When he was invited to be disciplined, his mother came with him and started yelling at staff, telling them that he would never do such a thing and that the girls are overreacting, basically completely ignoring the huge red flags that her son was sending out. Apparently he wasn't punished, or at least wasn't expelled, so that kinda justified this behavior. My country has a mandatory army service for all people above 18, and he was enlisted as well. A few years after the school scandal, my friends told me that he was sent to military jail for sexual harassment. I wish I could say it was a small case, but the details are truly horrifying. He forged medical documents and introduced himself as a medical assistant to women, claiming he was performing experiments with umbilical gas, his invention. Upon arriving to his house, he made the girls sign legal documents agreeing to confidentiality. When performing the so-called experiments, he told them to take off their clothes, and he would attach needles and different devices to them. He would massage them and do CPR on them, basically touching their body for arousal. Some of these sessions were also filmed. When the girls wanted to leave, he used the documents they had signed to blackmail them, stating he can sue them if they ever tell anyone. He even fined girls that left the experiment early. If you're asking yourselves how can someone be between the ages of 18 and 21 and possibly look like a medical assistant, he looked very old, about mid-30s. He was doing his mandatory service in military police, and apparently decided to offer a girl from his unit to come and be a part of his experiments. She, however, was not fooled by his documents, and after being groped, she immediately left and filed a complaint in the army. The military detectives took months to realize that his medical documents were forged. Apparently, he had over 15 different girls, some of which were minors, that had to suffer through this heck. I don't know the exact verdict, but from what I understand, he served his time in military jail and not regular jail. This whole affair got very minimal coverage on the media. I always wonder how things would have ended if his mom had actually done something about the complaints he got, rather than blindly defending him. Yeah, this is definitely one of those eye-opening situations where you realize these entitled parents who deflect and refuse to accept that their kids have some wrongdoing going on often only stands to further encourage and not only encourage doing more of the same, but possibly expanding and going even harsher. When accusations come up, no matter how much they mean to you, they really need to be addressed as seriously as possible. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.